AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
From Studio 2 at the worldwide headquarters of ESPN.
Say what?
This is Freddie and Harry.
Trucker Sean, you got the safe space. What you got for the safe space?
Man, I'm really sad, Freddie. A couple of months ago, you was talking about how you met a girl at a bar when you was at college, and you told her you had a friend, and you went to the bathroom and shaved your beard off.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's ride! Woo!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR. We are presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing, live today for the first time from the Spine Center. And we are thrilled to be here with our new hosts. And we'll tell you plenty about them here as we are here today. But my goodness, what a day it is in the history of LSU athletics. I am not into hyperbole. If you have listened to this show over the years for any length of time, you know that about me. I try to be tempered and measured in the way that I go about how we talk about things. Yes, I have been known from time to time to red-faced rant or even ride a horse because I think this job should be fun. I also believe that it is important to be measured in commentary when we discuss things, especially this nature. Today, though, is a day that is truly unique in the history of LSU athletics. And people misuse unique all the time. Unique means literally one. There has never been a time, as far as I can tell, in the history of LSU athletics when LSU rehired a coach that it fired for cause. And there have been instances of coaches returning to a place in college athletics. Greg Schiano went back to Rutgers. Bobby Petrino went back to Louisville. We see that. This is wild, y'all. LSU rehiring Will Wade is some on-brand LSU-ish. And I am here for all of it. We're going to spend so much of this show today dissecting this entire thing, how it happened, why it happened, what it means, all that sort of stuff. Not only for LSU basketball, all the other sports, all the tentacles that touch it. But the bottom line is this. Football is the non-negotiable at LSU. Football feeds everything else. Football will always, always, always get whatever it needs to function at the highest level possible. Period. That's the non-negotiable. After that, as LSU fans, the interest level generally vacillates. You know this. I'm not telling you something you don't know. The interest level vacillates based on success. In the late 80s, early 90s, when LSU football stunk and Skip Bertman started going to Omaha every year and winning championships, people fell in love with LSU baseball. It corresponded with Dale Brown's run with Shaq and Stanley and Chris, and people had LSU basketball fever. They had gone to 2 Final Fours in the 1980s. Now, LSU women's basketball, gymnastics have certainly fought for elbow room at that table. But LSU basketball is the thing that provides the biggest opportunity for LSU that is so neglected. The only two sports that have a shot of making money are football and men's basketball. And even finishing 3-15 in the Southeastern Conference, LSU men's basketball only profited, still profited about $2 million. 3-15 in the conference, and you still profited $2 million. the financial opportunity and the brand awareness that you are missing by being irrelevant in basketball and a fan base that is wholly apathetic is almost immeasurable. I can put down numbers. I've shared these with you before. You ask folks at LSU, they'll tell you LSU creates a winning culture in basketball, sells out every game, premium seats, all that stuff. They could net an extra $4 to $6 million. So you could push revenue, or so you push bottom line net, right, to $6 to $8 million if you max out men's basketball. But the brand opportunity of being in the NCAA tournament, being relevant in men's basketball, that's where you're really missing out right now by having friends and family at basketball games because the team's so bad nobody wants to go see them. There is one person, that realistically in an instant flips that. And LSU hired him today. It's Will Wade. I'm not saying, to be very clear, I'm not saying nobody else can win here. What I'm saying is your basketball program is not good enough with the realistic level of investment in facilities and staff and roster and everything. Your basketball program is not good enough to attract a coach like you did in football when you got Lane Kiffin, or like you did in women's basketball when you got Kim Mulkey. You can't do that at LSU in men's basketball. So if you wanted to fire Matt McMahon and go a different route, if it wasn't Will Wade, you're going fishing in the mid-major pond again. And maybe you hit on a Nate Oates. Maybe you nail it. Or maybe you end up with another Johnny Jones, Matt McMahon type situation. There's one guy who immediately gets the fan base excited, and you hired him today in Will Wade. It is uncanny that this has happened because of how it's transpired over these last 7 years. From when Will Wade was first on that federal wiretap, he was vilified nationally for doing something that everyone else was doing. He just happened to be on the federal wiretap. Fired for cause, which, by the way, was the right decision. Let's not operate under some revisionist history mindset. LSU, the NCAA, was holding basketball hostage, basically, or holding football hostage to get their pound of flesh from Will Wade. That's what they wanted. They wouldn't rule on LSU football until they got their pound of flesh with Will Wade. LSU did the right thing in sacrificing basketball to save football. That's the right thing to do. We may have hated it. We wanted Will to stay. We all wanted that, but not at the expense of football. But to be fired for cause, to be out of the game, then McNeese for 2 years, NC State now back at LSU after 1 year is an uncanny set of circumstances. Now, I'm going to go through how all this transpired. And I do think it's fascinating. But I think there's two reasons primarily why, if you're asking yourself, why would Will Wade leave a better basketball job for LSU? I think there's two reasons. And I'm going to ask him these. I'm going to ask him this specifically. He's going to get asked a bunch, but we're going to talk about this when he comes on the show. And he is going to come on the show a lot. Number one is alignment. Listen, I'm a big believer in criticize when warranted, but if you're going to criticize, give credit where it's due. And I hammered Governor Jeff Landry for how he bungled the Scott Woodward thing. It was a mess. He misread the whole situation, and it was a national joke. And I criticized him for it. To his credit, since then, he helped tremendously land Lane Kiffin. He had Jordan Seaton at the governor's mansion. And in this instance, he's the one who put the dominoes, who lined up the dominoes to make sure this happened. He hired Wade Roos as the system president, or it was his handpicked choice. Wade Roos coming over from McNeese. He took Lee Mallett, moved out Scott Ballard as the chairman of the board, put Lee Mallett as the chairman of the board. Lee Mallett and Jeff Landry a year ago tried to get Will Wade from McNeese to LSU. And to get all of that alignment in place, Governor Landry deserves credit. You want to criticize for things? You can. But if you're going to criticize, give credit where it's due. And without his actions, this ain't happening today. Because I'm telling you straight up, a year ago, when Scott Woodward stood in the way of this happening, Verge Ausberry was opposed at the time as well. And I know Verge, although he hasn't said this publicly, was not in favor of this move to bring Will Wade back or to bring Heath Schroyer in. But again, we all have a boss. And in this instance, the governor deserves credit for lining up the pieces to make this happen. That's one. The alignment is a big part of why Will Wade is back. From governor, board chairman, system president, Heath Schroyer in athletic administration, his people are here to help pull the resources he needs to win. That's one. Two, I think, and this really matters, are the people. And I'm not sitting here trying to be all Pollyanna. I'm not trying to get you to go get a tissue and wipe the tear out of the corner of your eye. But the reality is, nationally, Will Wade is viewed as a villain. He's a black hat. He's a heel. Ever since the strong-ass offer on the federal wiretap, Will Wade has been vilified by national media, by opposing fan bases, other coaches. People don't like him. Whether they know him or not, they don't like him. Except here. When all of that was happening and everyone was taking aim, LSU fans didn't turn their back on their coach. They stood in front of the darts. They took the arrows. You took the arrows for him and defended him and cheered him and loved him and still do and were ticked when he got fired. And I'm going to tell you, maybe I'm psychoanalyzing Will a little bit here, but the bottom line is nobody wants to be hated. And for Will Wade, there's one place, literally one place, where he could go and do no wrong. Look, he could have won big at NC State and they'd have loved him. But there's one place where no matter what he does, says, what he's adored. And it's here. His people are here. He has alignment here. The people here love him. And he's going to get an opportunity to finish something he started because Will Wade believes he can win a championship here. Now, I don't, just to be very clear. Like, I don't think you win a national championship at LSU. I'm not trying to throw a wet blanket on this fire. But maybe look, Indiana won a championship in football. Miracles happen, especially in this era. But I think those two reasons primarily are why Will Wade left a better job. NC State's a better job for this job. What a time, man. What a fascinating thing to see unfold. All right, it's after further review. We got so much to talk about here today. We're at Spine Center. Thrilled to be here. SpineCenterLA.com is the website. SpineCenterLA.com if you want to learn more. Amazing spot here. Dr. McCarthy, Dr. Rehired, they do awesome work. Put back pain behind you. Spine Center can help. Okay, our show up and every day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with a great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Crack open a few cold ones, y'all, and celebrate the general coming back. Let me knock out a break. We're supposed to have Kendall Rogers. Muse, I may bump Kendall. We'll see. Because I got so much more I want to talk about here. I want to talk about what transpired over the last 36 hours to get us to this very moment and let you know what's happening right now because there is currently a plane in the air to go pick up Will Wade. So let me knock out a break and we'll continue here. Thursday shows are presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. We're glad to have you with us here on AFR.
AFR. After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at DecisionCriticalBR.com.
Will Wade made a business decision. He came to NC State Right.
Used NC State for a year, whether it was timing or whether it was just like, hey, I can still cut it at that level. And instead of just driving directly to Baton Rouge because it wasn't correct at that time, took the triangle way, literally, no doubt, just took a triangle, came up here and is going right back to Baton Rouge.
That's Paul Ihander from ESPN 99.9. That's stupid. It's interesting. It's going to be interesting to hear the wailing and gnashing of teeth from Raleigh, similar to what we just heard from Oxford with the Lane Kiffin stuff. To have these two situations in close proximity, it never feels good to have your coach leave you. Because what it suggests is you are less than. And nobody wants to think they are less than or their program is less than. But to think that if you're NC State and you think that Will Wade used NC State, that's stupid. He used NC State to get to a lesser job? No, he used McNeese to get to a better job. He didn't need to leave McNeese to go to NC State to get to Baton Rouge. The only reason, again, that Will Wade wasn't here a year ago is because Scott Woodward stood in the way of it. And when Governor Landry and Lee Mallett tried to make that happen a year ago, it's a well-documented story at this point. And it's part of the reason why Scott Woodward is now former LSU Athletic Director Scott Woodward. And you all know my feeling on that. But anyway, I'll tell you something else. Matt McMahon was the lowest paid coach in the SEC. And my understanding is while Will Wade is going to make more money at LSU next year than Matt McMahon would have made, the offer, as I understand it, that NC State had made for Will Wade to stay was more money than what Will Wade is going to make in Baton Rouge next year. He is taking less money to come back to LSU. And there is some wild cockamamie report, good word, by the way, cockamamie, about this $15 million commitment for Will Wade and his roster. I will tell you unequivocally that is false. LSU, this is going to be hard for you to believe. And you can choose to believe what you want, but if you go look at the way I've reported on this the last 48, 72 hours, if you have any questions about whether or not I know what I'm talking about, okay, whatever, it's on you. You make up your own mind. But I know absolutely LSU has not given Will Wade a guarantee of a roster figure. Like, they have not told Will Wade, we will guarantee you X for your roster. None. They did not give him a guarantee. The condition that Will Wade wanted to come back was Heath Schroyer. Heath Schroyer was the McNeese AD who was hired today by LSU formally. This has always been part of this conversation. Will was never coming back without Heath Schroyer, in part because we know Verge Osbury and Will Wade maybe don't see eye to eye, and Verge didn't want this, so Will needed an ally in athletic administration. Well, this is his guy. It's Heath Schroyer. But as I understand it, Heath's role coming in primarily is going to be to work with basketball to get them the resources they need. Heath at McNeese did an outstanding job of fundraising and creating new sponsorship opportunities and getting resources into the athletic department. That, as a sort of a salesman, that was his sort of his superpower. So he's coming here with that intent to get Will the resources he needs for this program via sponsors, donors, whatever it may be, to inject that capital to get the resources for the basketball program. But if you think Will Wade used NC State to get to LSU, my goodness. Okay. Can't really be helped there. Let me kind of give you a catch up on how this all transpired today. So a day ago, Will Wade, two days ago, Will Wade and the NC State brass met. That was thought to be a meeting where they were going to offer him a contract extension. That didn't happen. This was again 2 days ago. This was on Tuesday. It ended up being a meeting where Will kind of led it, talking about what resources he needed and so on. That evening, Tuesday evening, is when a lot of the news from NC State sources started to percolate that Will was interested in LSU. And by Wednesday morning, that had become hot. That's when NC State reconvened with Will Wade Wednesday morning to discuss the LSU reports. Will told them, yes, there's mutual interest. At that point, NC State was within 24 hours going to make an offer to Will Wade to stay, their best offer. That meeting happened last evening, Wednesday, late afternoon, early evening. And as I understand it, the terms of what NC State offered were not disclosed to me, but as I understand, it was a hell of an offer. So again, Will Wade will be making less money in Baton Rouge than he would have made in Raleigh. But at that point, when he walked away without agreeing to those terms, it was on. Late last night, maybe in the overnight hours, is when Heath Schroyer signed his term sheet with LSU to come aboard. And at that point, of course, Will was on board. It was just a matter of finishing the final contract negotiations to get this thing done and then negotiating the buyout. Remember, the buyout was $5 million. It drops to $3 million after April 1st. The LSU's objective was to see if they could negotiate a lesser number there so that Will could just get out and NC State could move on. Instead, because LSU would have been content to wait another week to save $2 million. But NC State, obviously now needing to hire a coach, needs to get into the coaching cycle, and then the portal window opens on the 7th. So there's a lot to do. Wasting a week would have potentially been very detrimental for NC State. So both sides are willing to negotiate. My understanding is that they did come to terms on a settlement of the buyout of $4 million. So they met in the middle. The number was 5. It would drop to 3 next week. They settled in the middle at 4. So LSU's paying a $4 million buyout to NC State to get Will Wade out of the contract immediately. Today, I tweeted this at the time, but it was sometime around 1:30 p.m. I don't know exactly the time, but it was sometime in the 1 o'clock Central hour. Members of the LSU contingent were boarding a plane to North Carolina to get Will Wade. So Will Wade will be back in Baton Rouge today or this evening tonight. If you want to go look up the flight trackers, be my guest. I ain't doing that. Y'all go knock yourselves out. I'm not going to track planes anymore. But Will Wade will be on a plane to Baton Rouge tonight with the LSU contingent. And then the other question people have asked just sort of procedurally is about the press conference. So the LSU women's basketball team plays in the Sweet 16 tomorrow. And it's my understanding from the LSU administration standpoint, they do not want to distract from the LSU women playing in a Sweet 16 game tomorrow. So the press conference is not going to be tomorrow. I don't think they have a desire to have it on a Saturday. And then should the women win on Friday, they would play again on Sunday. So early next week, maybe perhaps Monday, is when you'd be looking at for the introductory press conference. Again, none of those details have been finalized. What was explained to me earlier today is that they don't want to hold the press conference to distract from the women playing in the Sweet 16 tomorrow. So expect likely a press conference early next week and not on Friday. But Will Wade will be back in Baton Rouge here today. You know, another person I think that deserves a tremendous amount of credit here. You know, we talked about, you know, Governor Landry and Lee Mallett. So this was their brainchild a year ago to make this happen. And those are two influential people who are used to getting their way. And we're not willing to back off here. But LSU system president, Dr. Wade Roos, as I understand it, was instrumental in this as well, in getting Heath Schroyer here and sort of calming those waters where his athletic director wasn't on board, but making sure that they had, you know, a unified front and alignment. And of course, convincing Will Wade why and making sure Will Wade got the things in place that he needed. I mean, this was, remember, Dr. Wade Roos is the one who hired Will Wade at McNeese and hired Heath Schroyer. And so he really is that central figure in this whole thing that was sort of the connector piece for all of these units to come together. So if you're someone who's sitting here who's very excited today, as well, I think you should be, the alignment we're talking about from Governor Landry and Lee Mallett and System President Dr. Wade Roos and Heath Schroyer, they all deserve credit for sort of pulling on the rope in the same direction to get this done. So we'll hear from all of these people individually, I'm sure, when the press conference happens. Well, maybe not the governor, Lee Mallett, but certainly Dr. Roos, who was there when Lane Kiffin was introduced, and we'll hear from Will Wade as well. So when that day comes here shortly. All right, it's After Further Review. We're live from the Spine Center here on Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. Glad to have you hanging out with us here. Thursday shows are presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Always love telling you about South Point Volkswagen at southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com. Southpointvw.com. South Point Volkswagen. Remember, right now, 0% for 60 months. Plus, that's 5 years, plus a $1,000 customer bonus when you buy a brand new Volkswagen Atlas. That's only through the end of the month. So you get 5 days. 5 days left to go take advantage. End of the month is a great time to buy. Got to move inventory, got to meet quotas, and you have a great deal right now on Atlas. 0% for 60 months plus $1,000 customer bonus. That's on Volkswagen Atlas right now at South Point Volkswagen. Airline just north of Highland, southpointvw.com. South Point Volkswagen, what's your direction? Okay, y'all, it's After Further Review. Let me knock out a quick break. We'll pivot briefly. Kendall Rogers will join us, preview the weekend ahead in the SEC. But a lot to get to. LSU spring football is back on the practice field today. We'll give you the practice report. We will go up to Raleigh in an hour. Noah Fleshman will rejoin the show. He was here last week. Kentucky head baseball coach Nick Mingione in hour 3. A lot to do, and glad you're hanging out with us here. It's AFR.
AFR.
Man, it is 85 degrees outside. I mean, we are just steamrolling toward pool season. You got a heater on your pool, you may already be swimming right now. That might have to be my next investment. Extend pool season by another couple of months. Anyway, point being, if you want that beautiful backyard paradise, your outdoor oasis, your own resort-style living at home, Duplessis Builders can make that a reality. Remember, when you call Duplessis Builders, they're going to build you a beautiful pool, but lots of people can do that. You don't need me to validate it. Pool and Spa Magazine named Duplessis Builders a top 50 pool builder in America, top 50 in the country. And they offer a 10-year workmanship warranty when the industry standard is 1 year. You are buying a premium product from a company that builds beautiful pools that last. So check them out, duplessisbuilders.net, duplessisbuilders.net.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalbr.com.
You know, when you're in pain, you can't wait. Here at Spine Center, they get you in quickly. Their motto, get them in fast. They want to treat all of Louisiana. SpineCenterLA.com. You got back pain. SpineCenterLA.com. SpineCenterLA.com. We'll tell you much more about Dr. McCarthy, Dr. Rehired, as we move throughout the show today. What a day as LSU has rehired Will Wade. As I told you just about a couple hours ago, plane was wheels up for North Carolina to bring Will Wade back home to Baton Rouge, where he will, for the second time now, be the LSU basketball coach. Ton of reaction that we're going to get to throughout the course of the show today. But the Tigers will open up a baseball weekend starting tomorrow. Kentucky's coming in. Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball, good enough to join us as he does each Thursday. Yo, man, how are you?
I'm doing well. You guys have had plenty of storylines over the last 6 months, huh?
Kendall, it is... like, this place is, and Lane always does the just different thing, but like, I mean, who rehires a coach they fired for cause? I mean, it's just like LSU is
only LSU.
Seriously. But I think people here embrace that about this place. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's different here and we don't care. People like actually enjoy the fact that it's a different kind of place. But
I will tell you this, man, and this is the reason why I love people from Louisiana. You will not ever meet anybody from Louisiana who cares at all what anyone outside the state thinks about them.
That's kind of the point. I mean, it's why
kind of awesome, actually. In modern America, it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Hey, look, LSU's going to welcome in Kentucky. Tigers are really in desperate need of a series win, man. How do you handicap this with the Tigers and the Wildcats?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing about Kentucky is they're going to make you beat them. They're not a team who's going to make a lot of mistakes. You know, they got one of the, I don't know if he'll end up starting at short just because he's been in and out of the lineup with an injury. But, they got one of the better, infielders in college baseball, maybe the best, in Tyler Bell. To be determined whether or not he's up the middle this weekend. But Luke Lawrence is another really talented infielder for them. They don't, again, offensively, they're going to have a really solid approach. They will not be afraid, to test LSU's backstop a little bit. They will try to steal bases. They will do things a little differently. So that's the biggest thing for me. But, just going to LSU from just looking at the team, like it's hey, can we put together a really good weekend? Last weekend, I felt like there were times where the pitching was pretty good against Oklahoma, and the offense just wasn't able to take care of business. And there's really kind of four guys a circle here when I look at the offense, is when you look at the conference numbers right now, Stephen Milam, 240, Trent Carraway, 182, Dardar, 167, York, 125. If you have four of those guys have started all but one game in conference. If four of your hitters are hitting in that range, man, your lineup's in trouble. So that's the thing I'm kind of keeping an eye on going into this weekend.
You mentioned the pitch. Look, I mean, Kendall, LSU's pitching allowed 9 runs in 3 games last weekend and lost the series. It's bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, at home. Whenever you think about losing Cooper Moore, though, for what seems like it's going to be a month, I mean, is that something that LSU can overcome?
I think they can. Like they're gonna have to be more consistent offensively to be able to do that. I mean, I do think if you look at this pitching staff as a whole, I mean, there's certainly, there's more than enough talent to kind of fill in that void. But there's no doubt. I mean, for the most part, he has been really good. So, just some guys around him specifically. I mean, I'm looking at the offense. They're gonna have to step up and help these guys out this weekend, because here's the thing. I was just kind of looking at LSU's schedule while you were talking, and right now, again, it's too early to be looking at RPI. Please do not go look at the RPI and go, oh, no, we're screwed. Well, they are sitting at 105 in the RPI, which is kind of mind-blowing, really. Yeah. But, I mean, if you look at the next few weeks, Kentucky at home, at Tennessee, at Ole Miss, A&M. Of course, we always know that series can kind of go either way in baseball. And then at Mississippi State, I mean, this is pretty close to a must-win, because if you, let's just go ahead and go in the SEC, let's assume you lose those road series, right? Because that's typically what's going to happen with two pretty even teams in the SEC. I mean, you combine that with the Oklahoma Vanderbilt series loss, this team is in a lot of trouble. So I think this weekend is very important, not only in terms of the record, but hey, let's start a new streak. Let's start a new identity here with this team.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but you would have to do something improbable in the final month of the season. I'm getting to the point
with the team for sure. And I know you're going to be like, well, of course you are. But, I mean, I am to the point with the team where I think if they got to Omaha and won the national championship, I think I'd be a little surprised.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like after almost 2 months, they kind of are what they are at this point. That doesn't mean they can't get a lot better. But can they get that good? Can they get the LSU standard good? I don't know about that just now.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say they missed on a handful of these transfers, and so you're going to have maybe some young guys step up and play a lot better to get you through. Hey, there's 2 ranked series this weekend in the conference. Oklahoma and Texas is obviously the marquee when the Sooners came to Baton Rouge, took 2 out of 3. How do you think that one? That one starts tonight, by the way, on the SEC Network at 7:00 for those interested. How do you think that one goes with OU and Texas?
Yeah, I was really impressed with Texas last weekend, and they go to Auburn, and I don't know if you saw those crowds last weekend, just because a lot of people weren't paying attention to it with NCAA tournament. But, I mean, they had 8,000 people there, and it looked like a zoo. So for Texas to go in there and win that series after losing a heartbreaker in the opener where the ball goes right between Aiden Robbins' legs, that was pretty impressive. And so I think Texas going back home against Oklahoma, they moved Cam Johnson to the Friday role instead of the Thursday role. I'll be interested to see how he handles that. I think this is kind of the last hurrah for Cam Johnson. I mean, that's 13 walks in the last 2 starts. You just can't continue to run that guy back out there. So I like Texas at home in the series, but I do think it's going to be a hard fought one. I think, as you guys saw, Oklahoma's a tough team, and they've got more than enough arms from a pitching perspective.
Kendall Rogers, D1 baseball. South Carolina fires Paul Maneri. That's not necessarily surprising. Maybe the timing might be. What you got a thought on that decision?
Yeah, I mean, you had to do it. I mean, I watched their Tuesday game against Charlotte, and I mean, I'm not going to say they were intentionally losing, but I mean, it was so bad that it looked like that. And I just think when you look at the relationship that kind of he and Terry Rooney kind of had with his players out of that university, it's just one of those things where I think Paul's a really good coach. I don't think he was a really good coach for the situation that they have right now, the NIL era, where you're going to have to do things in a different way. I just think it was a really bad hire in that regard. And the other thing, too, is as much as I love Paul, like, I didn't love some of the stuff he said after the fact, complaining about the fans, complaining about the media. It's like, dude, how are you the coach at LSU for as many years as you are? And, like, the media in South Carolina, of all places, like, bothers you. That just kind of blew my mind a little bit.
He never lost at LSU like he lost at South Carolina. That's
I mean, LSU fans would have legitimately probably like kidnapped him had he lost that much.
Hey, before you go, I was asked, give me an off the radar series maybe that you're keeping an eye on this weekend.
Yeah, I think Oregon and UC Santa Barbara would be a really good one. I mean, Oregon can really hit. UC Santa Barbara has one of the best pitchers in Jackson, Florida on Friday night. And then how about this one? This is a cool series. You don't see this very often, but Oregon State is an independent baseball. Mercer, who is 21-4 so far this year, they go to Corvallis, Oregon.
Okay.
From the state of Georgia for a 3-game series this weekend. So that's pretty cool. Then in the Big 12, you got West Virginia, number 17 in the country, at Arizona State, number 22. Arizona State, one of the best players in the country, in Landon Harrison. So those are kind of the highlighted ones for me. And then Mississippi State at Ole Miss is certainly top of mind. Ole Miss without Cade Townsend this weekend, but they played really well against Kentucky last weekend in Oxford.
It's Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball. Get him at Kendall Rogers. We appreciate it, man. Thanks as always.
You need a vacation after all this, dude.
Hey, man, I ain't going nowhere, man. If you don't love being here on air on days like this, man, what are we doing the job for?
Your advertisers are like cha-ching.
Bro, Kendall, so we're at the Spine Center today. I was telling them as we came in their marketing post, I was like, how lucky, this is the first time we've ever been at this location. I was like, how lucky are you that the first time we have ever done a remote broadcast at your location is the day LSU hires Will Wade?
There's a lot of adjustments going on today in Baton Rouge.
Oh, man, it's incredible. Oh, God. All right, thanks, Kendall. We appreciate it.
Keep up the good work, dude.
Thanks, man. Soon. We'll see you. We're brought to you by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. We're getting fitted for those national championship rings in basketball, right? Right? What about an engagement ring? Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry can help you there. lmfj.com, that's the website for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Locations in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport. They're online at lmfj.com. Hey, look, I love telling you about Lee Michaels because, man, they're just, I use the Goldilocks analogy. Like, the box store jewelers tend to be, maybe not as good as, tend to be sort of cookie cutter. The boutique jewelers, not as good a selection and tend to be overpriced. Lee Michaels is that perfect sweet spot. They're big enough to be able to give you great prices, but also great selection and the personalized customer service, the Lee Michaels experience, as they call it. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. We are at Spine Center. Thursday shows presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. It's not just healthcare, it's healthcare for your lifestyle. We're going to knock out a quick break, come back, wrap up hour number one. Get your reaction in on all things Will Wade. Email me, tweet me, text me. We're doing a ton of Will Wade stuff throughout the day, as you'd imagine. Do have to get an LSU football practice report in about 15 minutes. Stay here, it's AFR.
After further review.
Thinking about selling your home? First call needs to be to Darren James. I'll give you Darren's cell in just a quick second, and it's legitimately Darren's cell. I mean, you can text him. How many people would be terrified giving their number out on the air? Not Darren. Flood him with calls, man. You want to sell your home? Call Darren James. You want to know how much your home is worth? Call Darren James. You want to find out about the things that tell you all the time, like the Love It or Leave It program? Buy a home from Darren within a year for whatever reason. You have to move. Don't love it. Don't like your neighbors. Get transferred for work. He'll sell your home for free for his half of the commission. It's a Love It or Leave It program. So many different ways that Darren James makes sure you have an exceptional customer service experience when it comes to selling your home. Moving is one of the most stressful people consistently surveyed by Americans. One of the most stressful experiences in life is moving. Darren's objective is to make that as stress-free an experience as possible and to get you results. So call Darren. 335-7666, 335-7666, 335-7666 for Darren James.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at decisioncriticalbr.com.
And thinking about who we are, what we are, we won't back Abersoft. We're going to go find a coach that agrees and understands who we are and what we are. For the past 7 years, we've built a culture in the athletic program based on trust and accountability. We got coaches that want to be at NC State. They want to be a part of who we are and what we are and represent this great university.
That is NC State Athletic Director Boo Corrigan, who held a press conference today with the announcement that Will Wade obviously is taking the LSU job. And you could tell there's some hurt feelings and exposed nerve endings, and you can certainly understand it. NC State hired Will Wade a year ago from McNeese, thinking that they had their guy for the next decade plus, whatever it may be, that would lead them to prominence and championships. And after 1 year, Will Wade has left. The other thing that was interesting is Boo Corrigan was asked if LSU was in contact during the season. Here's what he said.
I think that's a question you need to ask LSU and you need to ask Coach Wade. I've got my own thoughts on where we are. I know that the number of times we had conversations about the job, including one time where it was, do we need to talk about this? And the answer was no. I believe a number of people may have been at the ACC tournament where the answer was a definitive, I'm going to be here. So I think that's a better question answered by LSU.
The answer that Will Wade gave in the ACC tournament was not a definitive. He wanted to be there. We talked about it here. I'll tell you, one of the things that's surprising to me is how surprised NC State is. And I'm not picking up. So Noah Fleshman's going to be here in about 35 minutes, 40 minutes or so. Noah Fleshman was with us last week, if you remember, when we were talking through some of this stuff. And he was pretty adamant that Will Wade was going to be at NC State and laid out all the reasons why. And the thing that struck me about that then is how dismissive or maybe unaware they were from that side. And the reason, I think sometimes we take this for granted, okay? You're an LSU fan, you live in Louisiana or have lived in Louisiana. You understand the strange political bedfellows here, right? It's so not normal for the governor of a state to be influencing a basketball hire. That's not a normal thing that happens. It is here. It happens here, but that's not a normal thing that happens around the country. So we all have been so aware for a year now of the attempt that Governor Landry and Lee Mallett made a year ago to get Will Wade from McNeese to LSU. They got blocked. But that interest never waned. And we talked about it openly on this show when Lee Mallett when they moved Scott Ballard out of the LSU Board of Supervisors and promoted Lee Mallett to chairman of the board. We talked about it here on AFR. I did a Locked on LSU episode about it. We tweeted about it. It was everywhere. How could you not know what was what pieces they were moving on the chessboard? Now, it doesn't mean you're going to consummate a deal. They tried to consummate the deal a year ago and fell short. But they were going to try. And to not have the awareness they were going to try is a little perplexing, and I think a little naive on the NC State side. I don't blame them for being upset, not a lick. But I also think to not have seen this percolating is bizarre. We're brought to you by Parish Restoration, parishrestoration.com. Kill mold, remove odor, other harmful pathogens. Let Parish come and spray their patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. It's cost-effective, it's efficient, it's effective, commercial or residential. Home, schools, doctor's office, gyms, anything. Sanitize your space, get rid of toxic mold, other odor, parishrestoration.com. Hour 2 from the Spine Center coming up right after Sports Center.
After Further Review.
We're brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawBillsTire.com, with locations all over South Louisiana. Find the location nearest you at ShawBillsTire.com. Tell you every day, name brand tires at wholesale prices. What they do at Shawbills, it's a simple model. It's easy to say, hard to do, but Shawbills has done it for almost 60 years now, since 1968. They're going to get you in by selling you the best tires on the road at the cheapest price. You want Michelin, BF Goodrich, Bridgestone, Firestone, best tires on the road at the cheapest price. They guarantee that, as a matter of fact. It's part of the Charlie's Dozen. Buy tires at Shawbills, find that tire advertised cheaper somewhere else. They'll refund you 125% of the difference. So they're not going to be beat on price. That's number one. And when you go in to buy tires, they're going to treat you so well, you're going to go back there every time you have anything wrong with your vehicle forever. It's worked for 60 years. It's Shawbills. ShawBillsTire.com. Shawbills, where we keep you rolling.